Welcome everyone to NoDQ&A video here on NoDQ.com. I am the owner of NoDQ, Aaron Rift, here to answer your questions regarding the world of professional wrestling. So let's get right down to it. Do you think anyone will ever top Bruno Sammartino's number of combined days he held the WWE title, which was 4,040? Cena, with his 10 reigns, had 1,048. And I want to add that Sammartino only had 2 title reigns. It's highly unlikely that anyone will ever be able to beat Bruno Sammartino's WWE title record. It was a different era, things have changed, and even if John Cena has another 10 title reigns, which is very much a possibility at this point, he's still not going to reach that record. I don't think anybody is ever going to come close to Sammartino's record. Do you think Triple H is deluded in his comments that UFC needs to evolve to WWE's level, or is he just playing for the reaction? I think it's a combination of both. I think Vince McMahon and Triple H really do believe that UFC is not competition with WWE, even though when UFC's had a pay-per-view like the night before a WWE pay-per-view, WWE pay-per-views have taken a hit. So I think there's definitely some kind of competition there in terms of pay-per-view business. And but I also think that Triple H is just trying to, stir the pot and do anything to get a reaction out of people and to get some free publicity. That's just my opinion. Hey Aaron, love the show, watch it every day. What are your opinions on Heath Slater? Do you think he has potential and can make a name for himself eventually down the road? I think he's a decent wrestler, but I'm not really a big fan of his look. The whole Wendy's look, and John Cena already has made him out to look like a goof. And unless he shakes that Wendy's stigma, I don't really... He needs some kind of repackaging in terms of his look at least. Maybe grow out a beard or cut his hair or something. He just needs a change, I think. But maybe he'll find himself. He's definitely got some potential. He's got some skill. Hey Aaron, what is your opinion on Stone Cold Steve Austin / Lance Storm angle in 2003? When Austin kept calling Lance boring, eventually leading to the dancing Lance gimmick. This is kind of related to that last question, because what happened with Steve Austin was he called Lance Storm boring, and then everyone started chanting boring at Storm, and then that was the beginning of the end for him in WWE. He never really recovered from that. And just like with John Cena, making the Wendy's reference to Heath Slater, everyone's always going to see him as the Wendy's chick. So he's never going to be able to be taken seriously. So, like I said, going back to the other question, they really need to repackage Heath Slater in some capacity. And yeah, it was just really unfortunate because Lance Storm could really bring a lot to the table. And going back to WCW, he was awesome there. And he actually got pushed really hard for a couple weeks, and people were buying into him. So there definitely more could have been done with him in WWE. Hey Aaron, I remember back in 2008 at the Hall of Fame, The Rock said he would love to have 3 dream matches. One was against Cena, the other 2 were against Shawn Michaels and Rey Mysterio. What are the chances of Rock facing HBK and Mysterio? Mysterio, highly unlikely. Shawn Michaels, almost 0 chance. Never say never, but I would be very, very surprised if that match ever takes place. You mentioned in an earlier NoDQ&A video that you wouldn't be surprised if Smackdown was merged with Raw if the attendance continues to suck. Do you see them making Raw 3 hours if they do merge the brands? Well, USA Network has been pushing for WWE to do 3-hour shows. That's why, every couple months there's a 3-hour show. USA wants them more often, and WWE is, not crazy about it because, the writers are already under enough stress trying to put together a 2-hour show, and they have difficulty with that sometimes. And I think Vince McMahon is against doing a 3-hour show and just feels it's too much, and rightfully so. If you go back to WCW, those 3-hour Nitros were brutal sometimes. It was just too much. 2 hours is a perfect length for a TV show. Don't push it with 3 hours. So hopefully they're best just sticking off with the 2 shows. Raw on Mondays and then SmackDown whenever. If they're going to merge the brands, just have all the superstars on both shows. That's the way to go in my opinion. Hey Aaron, what is the greatest possible match that did not happen? Mine would be Shawn Michaels versus The Rock. That would be awesome. Well, yeah, like I said, that match is unlikely to happen. Very unlikely. But if it ever did, it would, it'd blow the roof off the place. It would just be one of the greatest WWE matches of all time. I think the biggest match that never happened was Steve Austin versus Goldberg. I mean, you're talking about the 2 biggest stars of their respective brands And at a time when wrestling was at its peak in popularity, that would have been the biggest match of all time, no question about it. Is Christian better as a heel or face? Ooh, that's a tough one. I really like. He's good in both roles. It's hard to say which he's better at. As a heel, he's always been good as, being arrogant and being that heel that you just want to punch in the face. He really gets you going and says stuff to instigate you, and very good at talking trash. As a baby face, he's always good at making his comebacks and selling the heel and so on and so forth. He's great in either role. He's like Shawn Michaels in that regard. Hey Aaron, do you think if TNA got as good as WWE, Vince or Triple H would have to bring back some sort of attitude era to keep their ratings up, like they did with WCW? Thanks, Dan, DANN. Well, if things got desperate enough, I'm sure WWE would be forced to change their product in some aspect. But right now, TNA is not even close to being a threat to WWE. So, they're going to keep running on cruise control and doing what's been successful for them. There's no reason for them to change or take any kind of risks. But sometime down the line, 10, 15 years, if WWE is on the ropes again, I'm sure that they will be forced. They'll have no other choice but to change their product and do something different. Hey Aaron, love the show and thanks for picking up my question. Anyways, so what were your thoughts on Triple H versus Stone Cold's 3 Stages of Hell match at 2001's No Way Out? I think that match in Rivalry was underrated. Well, I think it's underrated because they put so much into that feud and that pay-per-view. 3 Stages of Hell was an epic battle between those two, and great matches, by the way. But I think the reason that people kind of forget it is because of the follow-up. One would think that Triple H would be the #1 contender, and then after WrestleMania, he would face Steve Austin. But what did they do? They aligned the two of them. It made absolutely no sense. You had a built-in feud right there. Triple H can just say, hey, I beat Austin in the 3 Stages of Hell. I deserve the title shot. And instead, they team up. God, that whole period, everyone knows what I said in one of the previous videos about WrestleMania 17. Not a big fan of the ending of that pay-per-view, and then definitely in the months following that, it was just a mess. Just a mess. Alright, that about does it for No DQ&A video here on NoDQ.com. You can submit a question for No DQ&A at NoDQForums.com. That's right, we got the forums back up. Please register and make some posts, respond to some posts, come interact with other wrestling fans, and submit a question for No DQ&A. I'll be answering it via text, and maybe I'll answer some of them here on the video series. Also, please subscribe, youtube.com/NoDQCAW. If you know anybody that watches wrestling, have them check out No DQ&A video. Maybe they'll like it, maybe they won't, but at least they'll check it out. I really appreciate the support, guys. And on that note, we'll see you next time.